Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to make a stock because I was going to make one anyway and I thought maybe you don't know how to make a stock. So whenever we have like Thanksgiving or we have a rotisserie chicken, I always save the bones from the turkey or the chicken. So here's my frozen carcass that I have. Lovely. What you're going to do is put the bones into a pot. So here's my pot. You could do a bigger one, and you want to start with cold water, okay? So you're gonna fill your pot with cold water until the carcass or the bones are completely submerged. It's very important that you start with cold water because what you're doing when you boil the bones is you're bringing out the gelatin, and the gelatin adds body to the soup or the stock. You definitely want some body in there. It's gonna make it have a better mouthfeel, be thicker than if it was just water. So basically, different parts of the bones will dissolve at different times, at different temperatures. So starting with cold water allows you to bring the bones and the cartilage and stuff through all the range of temperatures so that every single thing is broken down and dissolved. Okay, so I have the bones and water in here. And you want the bones to be submerged. Mine's still frozen, so it's a little tricky. I might need a bigger pot, but I think this is good actually for now. So what you're going to add to your stock to make it flavorful, you want to add a mirepoix. Normally mirepoix is 50% onion. Okay, so I have my onions. And it's 25% celery, 25% carrots. I'm doing a rough chop because all of these vegetables, they're going to turn into mush and all the flavor will be imparted into the stock. So it doesn't really matter what they look like. We're going to strain them out and throw them away anyway. So the vegetables that you really care about how they look, those are the ones that are going into the stock. Now, sadly, I don't have any celery. So, I mean, I have celery salt. I could use that, but I recommend not putting salt into your stock. It's always good to not have salt in your stock because you can always add salt later. If you add salt to your stock and it gets too salty, well then you can't undo that. So it's better to just use all the natural flavors and not over salt your stock. Okay, so no salt, we're gonna skip that. Instead, why don't we try some celery seed? I haven't done this before, but I'm going to give it a try. So normally you wanna put things like this, celery seed into a sachet. A sachet is kind of like a tea bag that goes around in your stock, but I don't have a sachet. I'm not at work, and I bring a lot of my tools to work to show my students. So normally you would put these things into a sachet, but we don't have one, so I'm just gonna put it directly into the stock. So we're gonna do some peppercorns, about a tablespoon of peppercorns. I wanna put in some parsley. Normally it would be parsley stems, but I don't have any. So actually, I'm going to skip that because normally I don't like to cook the parsley leaves because they can get bitter. I don't know if dry is different, but usually if you have parsley stems, go ahead and put those in. We want some bay leaves. I think I'll do 2 bay leaves. Thyme is another good thing to add. Let's see what else I have over here. Thyme. You can add oregano. So just whatever aromatic herbs that you want to season and impart flavor into your stock, you can add those. So now we're gonna go ahead and boil the stock. So remember, it's cold water, and we're gonna bring it all the way up to a boil. And then once it's boiling, we're gonna bring it back down to a simmer, cover it, and let it cook. And that way we are letting it go through all the range of temperatures. So the collagen and the cartilage and all of the parts of the bone break down and turn into gelatin. All right, so I also wanted to show you how to properly hold your knife in your food so you don't cut yourself. Okay, so say we have an onion here. As you hold the onion, you're gonna curl your fingers, okay? If your fingers are like this, that's more opportunity to cut them off. So you need to curl those fingers. Dig your nails into the food if you need to, but keep your fingers like this so that if the knife wants to get you, it can't. You see? It can't get you. If you're like this, the knife can get you. All right? To hold your knife, just loosely wrap your fingers around and whatever feels comfortable. I like to put my finger on the side of the knife because then it's kind of like an extension of my hand. Some people put their finger on top, but that's, I recommend more on the side. You're gonna have a better grip, better control. So whatever you have, you're going to hold it with like a bear claw grip. Make sure you tuck your thumb in. See how my thumb is tucked back? Because if your thumb is out, it's straight, it's going to get cut. So tuck it in, use the bear claw, and then you're going to cut. Now, as you cut, make sure you use a rocking motion and say that this is the surface. The tip should not be leaving the surface, only the back of the knife. Okay, so my tip's kind of going everywhere because it's not a real surface, but this is basically the motion that your knife should be. You're cutting, I like to cut with like this part right here, and my tip stays down, and it's like a rocking back and forth motion. All right, so I hope that helps you. Make sure that you get those fingers tucked in, tuck that thumb behind, and that's gonna prevent you from getting cut. There's nothing sticking out to get cut, okay? Couple other things. I wanted to show you how the yeast is doing. So this is my flour sourdough starter, and I don't know if you can see it, but it is starting to get little bubbles. And this is actually my discard starter, so I'm gonna use this to maybe make pretzels or something. And then my other starter, my yeast starter that's not discard, I already fed it, watered it, and remember, now we're on day 3, so I have to feed it and water it twice a day. And then I have my potato yeast that we're growing, I don't know if that's the right term, and it just looks like this. It doesn't really smell like fermentation yet. Now I have my fruit yeast that I've been working on, and I don't know if you can see, but there are some bubbles, and I'm thinking maybe that's the yeast that's starting to grow. Still no fermentation, no fruity aroma. So, and then I also wanted to say, I have a few people that say that they use pineapple for their fruit yeast and they swear by it. So I wanted to clarify, my fruit yeast is just yeast. Now, if you're just making regularly yeast, I still say that it's better not to use acidic fruits like pineapple or kiwi. If you're making sourdough yeast, then it's another story. You can go ahead and use pineapple. I was told that unsweetened pineapple juice works best. I have not made sourdough from fruit, just making it from flour. So, but as far as my recipe, with the fruit regular yeast, you don't want pineapple, okay? But you know what? Use what you have. Try whatever you want, experiment, and whatever works for you, works for you. So I think that's it. I think I went over everything. So this is going to get up to a boil. Now, if you're using chicken bones, then the stock should be ready in about 2 hours. So it's kind of the same as like when you're marinating. When you marinate chicken, you're going to marinate it like 2 to 4 hours, right? So if you're cooking the chicken bones to make a stock, it's going to take about 2 to 4 hours to get that flavor out. Now, if you're using beef bones, how long does it take to marinate beef? Sometimes 6 to 8 hours. You can do it overnight, right? So for beef bones, you're going to cook it in the stock for 6 to 8 hours. And then fish is very quick, right? You only need to marinate it for like an hour. So if you're doing fish bones, then it's only going to take like 45 minutes to an hour for the stock to be ready. Cooking it longer than that isn't really going to do much because all the gelatin is already broken down, all the flavor is already pulled out of the bones. So you're good to go. I think that's everything. Other than that, if you're going to use fish bones, make sure that you don't use oily fish like salmon, because then your stock's going to be very oily. If you're making a fish stock, I recommend using like shrimp shells, crab shells. That'll give you a really nice seafood flavor. So once the soup stock is done, I'm going to strain it. So all the solids will be in a strainer and only the liquid will be left. And then I'm going to use it to make a potato soup. So if you want to see how to make a potato soup from scratch, I will be posting that once I get to it. All right, good luck making your stocks, and hopefully your yeast is doing well.